All right, guys, welcome to episode 3. We're going to talk about non-lethal, right? And some of these aren't even, instruments of defensive tactics, let's say that. Okay. Number 1 is going to be your OC spray. Now, this has probably been the bane of my existence. Working in Portland, one of the on the use of force continuum, let's say that, this is probably what gets utilized the most right after verbal judo. I know most people would look at that and go, why don't you use verbal judo? So aside from de-escalating, if we have to go up on that use of force continuum, OC spray, pepper spray, is probably utilized the most. Now, if you're like me and you work a 12 to 16 hour shift and you do this multiple days a week. There's been many stretches where I work a 16-hour shift, 3 or 4 days a week. You're really, really tired, and it's easy to forget that you got into a hands-on event with someone earlier that day, the day before, or a couple of days before that, and you had to utilize your OC. I've had to train myself when I get my equipment in the morning to take out that OC and just give it a couple of shakes. Now that does 2 things. Number 1, it lets me know if the OC can is empty, which unfortunately, I have to admit, there have been times where I have gotten to work, needed my OC spray, and it is empty. And if that ever happens, you've only got a couple of other options. You better be able to talk that guy down. So by getting the OC spray off my belt every single morning, giving it a little shake, I'm able to make sure that there's actually pepper spray in the canister. Also, it does a secondary thing. It primes the OC. If you're not utilizing your OC very much, number 1, that's a good thing, congratulations. But number 2, everything starts to settle and starts to separate. Also, having that vacuum, that internal vacuum that you're going to utilize when you go to depress the plunger to get the OC to disperse, you need to get that shaken up, and you don't want to have to do that when you're in the need of utilizing the OC. When you're taking it off your hip, it needs to be ready to be utilized. So take your OC off, give it a little shake, make sure there's something in it, and make sure that you're also priming the OC in the case that you might have to use it. Another thing that I have been very guilty of is not charging my flashlight. There are so many great flashlights out there. I am not at all sponsored by Pelican, although I wish I was. But this is the Pelican 7600. This is my favorite flashlight. It has an internal battery, but it's a rechargeable battery. This is an LED light that has your extremely bright throw. It also has a throw that's a strobe and a smaller throw. It's got a green light, it's got a red light. I have been very, very happy with this flashlight, and the battery life off of a charge, I can get weeks out of this thing. And it's about half the price of a Surefire or some of those more expensive brands that are on the market. Now, again, if you're working some of these longer shifts, 12, 16 hours, where when you go to work, it's dark, and when you get off of work, it's dark, it's really important to have a good flashlight. So you have to make sure that you're charging that flashlight. Again, in one of the earlier videos, I talked about that catch tray. That's right there by the door. I come in my door, I take out my identification, my wallet, my keys, everything goes in that catch tray, and so does my flashlight. And the reason why the flashlight goes in the catch tray, there's an outlet right there, and it has the attachment that charges this. So every night, get home, put it in the catch tray, charge it, and then when I leave in the morning, it's right there next to all of my other items that are in that catch tray before I go out the door. Now, another thing that you want to make sure you guys have are a good pair of gloves. Now, I do not remember the brand, but these are modeled after a pair of 511 tactical finger gloves that were utilized for shooting. I love these gloves. Now, I got these off of Amazon. They are extremely tacky on the hand surface, but they fit very, very snug, right? There's very little give in terms of these gloves, and that's for a couple of different reasons. If you have to go hands-on with someone, you want to make sure that you have really good dexterity. But also, if you're utilizing these gloves on a daily basis to either, interact with people, or you're picking up things off the ground, or you have to go into a hands-on situation, if you still have to access your firearm, you want to make sure that you have really good dexterity. There's so many gloves out there, and I've pretty much tried them all. Gloves that are puncture proof, gloves that are slash proof, right? Gloves that are antimicrobial, all of these awesome gloves that are out there. But one of the issues I continually ran into with every single pair of gloves that I purchased was, can I manipulate my firearm? And I couldn't. There just simply wasn't enough dexterity. So any gloves that I find that I'm going to potentially use on a daily basis, they have to have extremely good dexterity and also be able to operate the phone in the finger area. So these gloves, as well as the 511 dexterity shooter's gloves, have been very, very good. Also, if you have to go hands-on with someone, it's great for gription. Be able to get that good grip on someone so you can control that person if you need to place them into handcuffs or restrain them in any sort of way. Another thing that I make sure that I have, and I probably have about 7 of these all around my house and in my car. I've talked about it before, and that's the Wedge. Now, what is the Wedge? This weird little thing here. This is probably one of the coolest designed items that I've purchased. And aside from my cell phone, my flashlight, and my de-escalation verbal jiu-jitsu, this is the one item that I have used the most in my career as a security guard. This is utilized by opening the door, and you can place it on the door in a couple of different ways and in a couple of different areas, but basically it's a glorified door stop. Somebody has made a lot of money by 3D printing these, placing a little bit of rubber on them. I can only imagine how much this costs, but this goes onto a little carabiner clip, and it sits just like that on my uniform. I have a couple of yellow ones and orange ones and black ones, and people ask me, what's this little Christmas tree ornament that you have? But quite frankly, this has been the most utilized piece of equipment that I have. I'm very, very happy with this product, and if you're working by yourself and you have to do things like clear bathrooms or go into areas, by yourself, if you're having to clear buildings, there's some people that work downtown Portland that part of their job is to secure different buildings, different garages, different industrial spaces. You get 2 or 3 of these and you prop those doors open, and as you're making your way through, you're not closing yourself in. Very, very good. For me specifically, a lot of the locations that I work at are high narcotic drug areas. And part of my job is to clear people out of those bathrooms and back rooms that are participating in this activity. When you go into a room that's full of fentanyl smoke, you do not want to be in there with the door closed. And specifically, you don't want to be into a room with the door closed when you're in there with someone that's, potentially mentally ill or suffering from drug psychosis or just a bad person. So being able to prop those doors, have those doors remain open and not have that door closed at your back, so important. These items, OC, flashlight, the Wedge, and gloves, very important to make as a part of your 5-point checklist, because they're definitely a part of mine.